Hello and welcome to this edition of NLB's Tech Tip videos, a video series where we dive a little bit more in depth on different products and applications for NLB high pressure water jetting systems. Today I'm joined by Ryan McElroy. Ryan, how are you doing?
Good, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. Ryan has been with NLB for a number of years. How long have you?
Just hit 13 last week.
13 years, okay. And today Ryan and I are going to talk about NLB's eSync technology. Ryan, what is the eSync technology?
eSync is a wired and wireless tool system that was developed in conjunction of our e-clutch systems used on our diesel pump units.
Okay, yeah, that's a great point. So first came the e-clutch. And the e-clutch was NLB's run at putting an electronic clutch in between the pump and the unit.
Correct.
And the idea was that you could disconnect that pump from the diesel engine through that electromagnetic clutch, which was an interesting idea because it would stop the flow of water. The pump would not turn when you didn't want it to.
Correct. And it eliminated system valves and dump valves. And
Yep. Eliminated a lot of things that could have wear in them, and it was a good idea. But in order to do that, with the standard e-clutch unit, you had to have somebody back at the panel turning the switch on and off.
Correct.
Just like a PTO handle. I mean, you could do the same thing with someone engaging and disengaging a PTO handle.
Yep, exactly.
Now the e-clutch was much easier. It was a flip of a switch instead of a big handle to push and pull, but essentially it would do the same thing. But to your point, what eSync allowed us to do was, instead of having to have someone back at the pump actually turning the switch on and off, we put the ability in the operator to turn that switch on and off.
Correct. Either through a foot box, a pendant, or a hand lance.
Right. Yep. Originally there was the foot box, the pendant, and the hand lance. After which we did do there's some spin jets, I think, that have eSync technology built into them.
Yeah, we've integrated it into spin jets and a couple other components.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great summary. It started with the e-clutch. We realized we would like to have some ability to control things remotely. eSync 1.0, or just eSync at that point, came along. And over the years, almost 9 years at this point, because this stuff originally came out in 2017.
Correct.
We realized that there was some opportunity for improvement. And that is what has brought us to the eSync 2.0 product line. Can you tell us a little bit about what is different with 2.0?
So between 1.0 and 2.0, we upgraded the wireless modem within the electronic system.
Yep.
For the receiver, it is the exact same footprint and enclosure that we had in the original eSync 1.0 variant. The internals are what changed on that.
Okay.
And then within the hand lance and pendant and foot control box, we changed the connector used to sync the tools. And then internally, the wireless transmitter also got upgraded for that as well. It also has the same footprint as the original eSync 1.0, so it's a kind of a direct drop-in, plug-and-play system.
Yeah, great point. As you said, this is actually the receiver that goes inside the panel on a unit. Just looking at this, you wouldn't notice any real difference between the 1.0 and the 2.0.
Correct.
And the 2.0 you can take a 1.0 out and plug a 2.0 in, and it will work.
As long as you have the 2.0 tools.
As long as you have the 2.0 tools. You made a great point about the connector. This is the connector on eSync 2.0, a very robust, very heavy duty, as you had mentioned earlier, field repairable connection, as opposed to this. This is an eSync 1.0 pendant, and this is the style of connector that it used to have.
Correct.
It functioned, it worked, but out in the field in a water blasting application, this cord had less of a chance of surviving than a heavy duty cord like this.
Yes, and if you're wearing gloves, the fine pitch threads on that connector made it a bit cumbersome to connect and sync the tools to the receivers.
Right. But what you're saying is that the internals of a 1.0 and the internals of a 2.0 fit in the exact same space.
Yes.
And it's even the same style board, right? I mean, you can take the board out of this one and
Correct.
put a 2.0 board in.
Correct.
And this will function as a 2.0 tool.
Yes.
So that's a great point. Anybody that has existing 1.0 units or tooling, if they want to convert those over, that's completely possible.
Yes, we have upgrade kits to convert 1.0 equipment into 2.0.
Okay. So what's different about the actual signal that we're using for 2.0?
So with 1.0, we had two different signals, 900 megahertz that we were using in North America and 2.4 gigahertz that we were using internationally.
Okay.
When we kicked the project off to upgrade everything to what is now known as the 2.0, during our testing, we discovered that the more powerful 2.4 gigahertz receivers were giving us just as good as a performance that we were seeing with the 900. So we decided to commonize across the board to the 2.4 gigahertz.
Okay.
And we went from a 10 milliwatt receiver and transmitter up to a 63 milliwatt radio. So that does not sound like a lot, but over 6 times the strength, it really performed very well.
Yeah, so what we found in our testing was much better range and much better penetration of signal through some things that had caused problems in the past.
Absolutely. We were getting upwards of 300 feet indoors going through walls, CNC machines and such.
Yeah. Yeah, I know people always ask, well, what's the range? And it's a hard thing to define because tell me what you're trying to go through.
Right.
But we can tell everybody that this signal is much, much more robust than the 1.0.
Yes.
And what I think is really cool is that if you have any other 2.0 accessory, so let's say you have a pendant and a hand lance,
Yep.
and you're down inside of a pool working and you're having a signal problem, you know, something is blocking it, any of these accessories can act as a signal duplicator.
Yes.
Or replicator.
A repeater.
A repeater. So you just, turn this on.
You turn it on, you don't sync it. You can only have one tool synced at a time. So whatever your end use tool is, that'll be synced. But a pendant, a foot box, and other lance can be set down on the ground, hung up on a wall, thrown into a tree.
Right.
And that will do the job as a repeater. It's just going to grab all the wireless signals in the area and then amplify them and send them back out.
Yeah. And you can actually have up multiple repeaters.
Yeah, we can daisy chain up to 5 repeaters. So
you're talking about a huge range at that point in time.
Really, at that point, your pressure drop is going to be pretty substantial in your hose.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yes. There shouldn't be a situation where you couldn't use a repeater to be able to function at your high pressure water blasting job.
Correct.
Yeah, great. So 2.0 also includes this device, right?
Yep.
What's this thing?
So we added an external antenna kit there's some bulkhead connectors in there to connect to the antenna port on the receiver, which is mounted inside the enclosure on the pump unit.
Yep.
And then we are mounting this bracket here as high up on the pump unit as we can get it.
Yep.
To further extend the range and help the system work properly.
Right. So in addition to the signal improvements we've made and the signal strength, we've also added an external antenna that's adjustable and movable so that depending on where the pump is, you can just kind of figure out where the best line of sight is and to get the best signal back to the unit.
And kind of get it off the ground and elevate it to help eliminate any interference.
Okay, great. All of these use a rechargeable battery. What can you tell us about that? Is it?
It's a standard 18650 lithium ion battery.
Right. So you can go to any battery store in the United States. And if you can't find one, you can go to your local vape supply store because they have them in stock because this is the typical battery that's used.
Yep.
And signal strength, or I should say signal strength, but battery life expectancy for one of these? By charge?
30 hours.
Okay.
So we've got a pretty low amp draw on the devices. I think it's about 100 milliamps an hour or something like that.
Okay. So great battery life.
Yes, absolutely. And if your battery does die in the field, connect your sync cord, then you can still operate.
Yeah, that's a great point. If for some reason all the vape stores are closed and your battery charger breaks and you don't have any extra batteries, you can always pull out your cord, make a wired connection, and the eSync signal will work as expected.
Yep.
So Ryan, if I have an eSync 2.0 unit, or maybe I have multiple eSync 2.0 units in my fleet, and today I need to take my 40K unit out and I'm going to run a 40K application. I pick this hand lance up. What do I need to do to make sure that this hand lance works with the e-clutch unit that I picked up and put down the road today?
So every time you turn the tools on, either the receiver or the eSync tool itself, you have to sync the two together and do a handshake. So it is required to use a cable at least to do the initial handshake of the devices.
So what does that look like? There's a short section of cable like this.
Yep.
And you would make a wired connection between the tool and the connection on the unit.
Correct.
And then you turn
the ignition on your pump unit and turn the tool on through the battery switch.
Okay. Which is in this instance right here.
Yep. On the lance, it's on the end of the grip, and on the flip box, it is on the end of the enclosure there.
Yep.
Wait for the lights to start blinking. They're gonna do a series of red and green, and then start flashing green heavily.
Yep.
After they're connected.
Okay, great. So not a complex process, but
no.
And then once that unit is on and the accessory is on, those two are paired to each other for the remainder of the time that both of them stay on.
Correct.
So
you can't have someone operating a foot box and triggering your pump while you're operating a hand lance.
Yeah, right. A tool can be paired to a pump, and once those two are paired, they are only paired to each other until one or the other is shut off.
Correct.
Then they become unpaired, at which point you can grab another tool. If you wanted to use the foot box now, you could take the foot box and pair that to that same unit.
Yeah.
The point being that any of these tools can sync with any eSync 2.0 unit at any point in time, but they can only be synced to each other.
Yes.
One thing that's interesting when we talk to people about eSync and eClutch, or I guess eSync in particular, is this concept of pressure ratings. Because in the past, when you think about tooling, you think about, well, is it a 10K or a 20K or a 40K tool? But when it comes to eClutch, for these two specifically, it doesn't matter what pressure it is.
Correct. The pendant and the foot box are pressure agnostic. There's no hose running through them or anything like that. So the operator can kind of be away from the work area.
Right.
Depending on what type of work they're doing.
Right.
Which makes these types of devices a little safer in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the viewers, anybody that's familiar with a normal foot box or foot control knows that you've got a pedal just like this, and when you step on it, you are stopping the dump water from coming out of the foot box. So in a normal water blasting application where you're using a foot box, you have high pressure water or low pressure water continually dumping out of this thing until you step on the pedal, which directs the water to your high pressure water blasting station. And that is what it is.
And you're still going to have some water running through your high pressure hose to your nozzle. So it's still dumping water on the ground where you're standing and continuing to dump water on the ground or in your work area.
Right. So the beautiful thing about this is that when you want high pressure water, you step on this, your pump engages to the diesel powered unit and it starts pumping water. And as soon as you don't want water anymore, you let off this and your pump stops. You are not pumping water when you don't need it.
Yep.
So for this one, You can use this at 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 PSI because it does not have any high pressure connections. There's no high pressure components to this.
Correct. There's just some micro switches in there.
Some micro switches. And the same with this guy. You know, push the button if you want water and let go when you don't.
The hand lance, however, is pressure rated for the various pressures.
It is. Now, one thing that not everybody probably realizes is that the base eSync hand lance, there's only one.
Correct. It is designed for 40K.
It uses all 40K components. Now, if someone wants it for 20K, as is in this instance, and you can tell that by the color-coded blue section here on the inlet, all we do is take 20K inlet adapters and 20K nozzle adapters and put them on this hand lance.
Yes.
And in this instance, you can see this hand lance has been set up to be used with our Sure shrouds. That's what this connection is right here. But this is your high pressure inlet. So while we do sell different pressure ratings of the hand lance, in reality, the base product is the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ryan, we talked earlier about the switch over from 1.0 to 2.0. Let's say one of our customers has 1.0 and they have some tooling and they have some 1.0 units and they're interested in switching over to 2.0. I think you'd mentioned that for the unit, it's very simple. You simply take the 1.0 out, purchase the 2.0 and plug that in. And then you would install this.
Install the antenna kit.
Yep.
And a new bulkhead connector.
A new bulkhead connector for that
to operate
style.
with this style of cable.
Right. But their existing box that everything came in will work fine. They just will make a couple of adjustments to that. And that's everything they would need to do for the unit itself.
Yeah, they would need to drill a couple holes to enlarge the connector fitting hole. Do some pretty light wiring.
Yes.
But the receiver itself, it uses the exact same connector that's already installed in the enclosure, so they don't have to do any major wiring changes with that.
Right. So any of our viewers, if you have a 1.0 system that you've been using and you're interested in switching over to 2.0, that's something that we're ready to accommodate, and we have kits ready, and it's really a very simple process. If you want to switch over your 1.0 accessories, that's possible, but what we're asking is for those tools to be returned to an NLB facility.
Yes.
And our technicians will do what needs to be done to get the wiring updated.
It's a little bit more involved, but not overly crazy with what we're having to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would highly recommend having NLB do the upgrades.
Yes. So Ryan, as we think about ways that eSync is used in the world, my mind goes to like 40K single gun applications. Is one of the places where I see it being really interesting, because anybody who's used ultra high pressure rotating systems knows that you have a bimode valve and you have a hand lance and you require air to transfer the signal and to power rotation.
Yep.
You have whip hoses or sections of hoses that have to have air lines.
You're kind of limited on length of what you can run.
You're kind of limited on length. You have to be within 35 feet of the bimode valve. That bimode valve is where all your water is getting dumped. So, it's close to your work site. So when you think about the ability to just start and stop the flow of water from a hand lance and not need all that valving and all that additional complexity, if I was a pool contractor and I had a guy inside of a pool needing to run 40K to do gunite removal, or then even a spin jet to do the floors, there's eSync versions of both of those tools, and you're talking about being able to start and stop the flow of water with an E-clutch through this eSync signal.
Yeah, just quite literally a flick of your finger.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting application for me. That 40K single operator, this makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of our customers like to have the pendant, even if they're using the E-clutch more in a traditional way. because they could have an operator up at a workstation using a standard dump style foot box, foot control, but the supervisor can have this device sitting on his belt or her belt, and if they need to stop the flow of water, that disengages the clutch and the system is no longer pumping water.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And, I know, especially with a lot of automated hose feeders, there's a number of customers who have been using the foot box as a way to start and stop the flow of water for automated tube cleaning systems, and that's been very popular.
Yep. We've also worked with a couple other players in the industry to integrate eSync into their equipment.
That's a very good point. Yeah, we won't mention any names today, but there are a couple of our friends in the industry who are working or have worked to integrate eSync into their tooling so that their tools can talk to our pump through this eSync signal.
Yes.
Yeah, more to come on that later. So one of the terms that's somewhat common in our industry is dry shutoff. And eSync is really a path to dry shutoff. It's very different than traditional methods. Dry shutoff used to mean you would have a tool that had a valve where you would actually shut off the flow of water at your tool.
And then had an unloader valve mounted on your pump unit.
Yep. So they called it dry shutoff, but that water was still going somewhere. It was just not in your work site.
Correct.
There have been hydrogen valves, there have been different air actuated valves, there's been spring valves. But when you stop the flow of water at the work site, in a traditional pump unit, the pump and the diesel engine are still connected.
Yes.
They're still pumping, and that water needs to go somewhere.
And it's still pressurized too.
And up until that dump valve, it is still pressurized. I shouldn't say dump valve, up until the tool.
Yes.
So even if you stop the flow of water here, from here all the way back is a pressurized line.
Correct.
We talk about dry shutoff with these tools, but it's a very different concept. It's dry shutoff because when you let go of the trigger or the pedal or push the button, it's not stopping the flow of water at the tool.
It's stopping the pump.
It's stopping the pump.
We disengage the pump completely, and within half a second, the pump is stopped.
Yep.
And
the system is depressurized. There's no pressure anywhere.
correct.
From the handlands, foot box, all the way back to the pump itself, the system is depressurized.
Yes.
And in speaking with people who used, especially the handlants, they really like the way that it comes back into pressure. Because, you know, with this handlance and with other dual trigger handlances, we require a sequence of operation. They have to pull the front trigger first.
And within 1 second, they have to pull the rear trigger.
Yep, so they can pull the first, then within 1 second they have to pull the second, and that sends the signal to the eSync system, which then brings the pump up to speed over about a half a second period.
Yes.
And so for anybody who's used a dump lance, when you pull that trigger, it's now. The pressure is instantaneous and the back force is instantaneous. The eSync system actually kind of ramps up in a nice way that operators really have come to appreciate.
A lot more of a extended impulse and a lot smoother.
Smoother. Yeah, I think that's the word people use. It's just a very smooth transition from no pressure to full pressure. So Ryan, today the eClutch is available in NLB units from the 125 series up to the 325 series, which means 75 horsepower up to 450 horsepower.
Correct.
If there's someone that has a pump that's larger than that and they wanted to investigate using eSync, what are some ways that we could accommodate that?
So we can use the eSync receiver to control a dump valve or diverter valve or some sort of system valve to allow a customer with a higher horsepower unit to use a foot box or a pendant. I wouldn't want to use a hand lance with that much power. But we can definitely integrate the eSync into other devices outside of the scope of just the eClutch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. So, you know, if you're out there with a 605 and you're thinking about ways that you might want to start and stop the flow of water, we can do that. We can't do it through the clutch, at this point, but we can use the same signal to control a dump valve or a system valve
Yes.
that can start and stop the flow of water.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for joining us today, Ryan. It was very informative, and I very much appreciate you taking some time to explain eSync, switch over to eSync 2.0 and the eClutch. It's a good topic, and it's one that I think it's important that everyone have a good understanding of.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
All right. And thank you all for joining us for this latest edition of NLB's Tech Tip videos.